Hi there, good evening everybody. Good to be with you. Alex Crook, as I say, is alongside me and Simon, and we will take you through the 11 o'clock deadline. Everything that's going on out there is coming our way, and we will bring it to you first and fastest right here on talkSPORT. It's all agreed between Chelsea and Benfica for Enzo Fernandez. Now it's down to getting the paperwork done. It's a race against time, but we think it's a race that Chelsea will win. Simon Jordan alongside me. This is unusual for us, my friend.
Indeed it is.
It's dark out there.
Indeed it is. Do you look better at night, Jim? I don't know.
Good to see you, Simon.
Nice
What about this spend? Can you believe it? The previous record, 430 million in 2018. In the month of January, we are now looking, Simon, at going right through the 800 million barrier.
Yeah. In fairness to both myself and Alex, when we were in the World Cup away in Qatar, we turned around and said we think that this transfer market might be a significant one. We spoke about it again in the middle of January and said, maybe we'll get past 600. To get to 860, to get to 86% of £1 billion in a secondary transfer marketplace, which is the January marketplace normally is an indication of where the Premier League is and where some of the people in the Premier League are capable of taking it economically.
Alex, it's a race against time, as I said, for Chelsea over in Lisbon, of course. They've been over there all day. They've had a medical team there. They have a plane waiting for Enzo Fernandez. We think it's a race against time that Chelsea will win.
I think it will be. They've put so much into this deal, haven't they, both in terms of money and resources. We know they've had a plane on standby in Portugal since last night. They were hoping, obviously, to bring Fernandes back to the UK to get the medical completed, to get the formalities completed in this country. That will now happen in Portugal. They kind of had to get it done, didn't they? They would have lost so much face if this deal didn't happen. Credit to Rui Costa, Benfica president. He drove a hard bargain. I think they've got actually a bit more than the release clause. It's going to be in excess of £105 million. That means it will be a British record transfer, smashing the £100 million that Manchester City paid for Jack Grealish. And Chelsea are, we think, going to get their man. I'd imagine they may need one of those deal sheets to take it beyond the 11 o'clock deadline, but it will get done.
It will get done. Simon, I've asked you many times, but I'll ask you again, for everybody at home, for everybody out there listening, how are Chelsea doing it? How are they spending so much money? I mean, this morning they spent 180 million in this window and they weren't done yet. Now they've got Fernandes. They've added to it big time. How are they doing it?
Well, the basis of how they're doing it is they're spreading the contractual depreciation over a longer periods of time. You've seen them do it. You're taking players on 8-year contracts. The argument's raging among the football fraternity, the establishment, suggesting that this is some sort of loophole. It's not some sort of loophole at all. What you do is you take a player's value, you divide it by the number of years you sign him on a contract. If you put him on a 4-year contract and you've got a £115 million player, he's going to depreciate at £23.5 million a year. If you put him on an 8-year contract, he's going to depreciate at £11 million a year, which means that you're reducing the amount of exposure that you have to losses through player values depreciating through their contracts. So part of how Chelsea are doing it is because they're thinking long term about the length of contracts they're giving. They're banking and backing themselves on the logistics of making a decision for a younger player that's going to be with them for a period of time. It puts them in control if in 3 or 4 years' time Madrid come knocking on their door and want to buy a player that's successful with them. But it also puts a sting in the tail, because if they get it wrong, they've got somebody on 250 grand a week, which is probably what most of these players are coming in on, for 8 years. So there is a yin to their yang, but they're not stupid here. Boehly's not stupid. We can make the accusation, and we've made the accusation, and other people have made it about what he's doing, how he's coming in. He's Johnny Splattercash, doesn't know what he's doing, getting carried away. But they know what they're doing. Yeah, they know what they're doing economically, and it shows that the spend pattern on a club that's been bought for £2.5 billion is something very different than has been seen before.
We're keeping an eye on it. Still incomplete in terms of the paperwork. So once that's done, the boy can get in the flight with the Chelsea officials who are over there and fly back to London. But it's as good as done, as we are being told. What about Manchester United, Alex? Closing in on Bayern Munich with a loan deal for the Austria midfielder Marcel Sabitzer. Will United fans be happy about that, do you think, tonight?
I think they'll be happy to get another body through the door, because Christian Eriksen obviously has been ruled out until April. This morning, the noises coming out of Old Trafford were there wouldn't be any more incomings. That would have left them really short-handed in midfield. Donny van der Beek having been ruled out for the season. Scott McTominay picked up a knock at the weekend. They did explore various options, I'm told, this afternoon. I think Erik Ten Hag himself said to the board, look, I need some help here, guys. We're in 4 competitions. get me somebody. There's a bit of a relationship between him and Bayern Munich, where he was there as a coach. He'll have done his due diligence when it comes to Sabitzer. He was a good player at RB Leipzig. It didn't quite work out for him at Bayern, but there's a talent there. It's risk-free, isn't it? It's a loan deal to the end of the season. No option to buy, so it is literally a short-term fix to cover for the injury to Eriksen. And I'm being told in the last few minutes, this deal will get done. If not by 11 o'clock again, the deal sheet will be put in place, but all is on course for Sabitzer to join Manchester United today.
Okay, Simon, almost ironically, as we came on air, the only club still to do any business, Everton. And you would have thought Everton would have done some business today. They're trying to get Andre Ayew over the line. He's a free agent. He left Al Sadd a few days ago.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have thought that's going to appease the Evertonians tonight, will it?
No. I mean, ultimately, you would have expected Sean Dyche to have known that there was a struggle. And what you're seeing is there's no rush, no clamour to join Everton. Whether there was a real transaction that could have taken Conor Gallagher from Chelsea to Everton, we'll never actually know, because the player didn't want anything to do with it. And the challenge for Everton is there's not that many people that want to actually join them. Now, that doesn't exclude them and doesn't preclude them from criticism, because ultimately this club needs bodies, because what they've got is not good enough. Now, whether Sean Dyche, I think personally Sean Dyche will just have just about enough in his locker to get this rabble together to get them across the line, because I do think there are three sides worse in the division. Ironically, I think still, irrespective of what Bournemouth have spent, they're likely to be one of those sides. That's
right. Bournemouth have been spending. We'll cover that, of course, between now and 11 o'clock. Simon, when you look at it, I mean, as I said at the top of the show, the previous record in January was 430 million in 2018. We're gone through 800 million tonight, heading towards 860 million pounds. Is it time to take the January transfer window seriously? I mean, Boehly's proven here that you can do strong business in the winter and it's a good time to rebuild.
Well, we'll see how this business plays out for him, because most of the time the players that you buy in January don't have the kind of impact that you expect them to do, and they tend to be bought as a panic buy to be able to resolve a situation. Chelsea are, of course, building a team and building a squad, and it may not be that Chelsea continue this ridiculous pattern of spending ad infinitum. But the bottom line is you've got a transfer market which has just taken us beyond the £2.1 billion mark for the two transfer windows, which no one's been ever near before. And 35% of that has been done by Chelsea. And probably the best part of 25% in two transfer windows has been done by one football club. Irrespective of what Abramovich has done, I don't think we've ever seen that before.
Never.
And I'm not sure we'll see it again. But what we've got is a unique situation. It just shows you. And, people are talking about the cost of living crisis. This is other people's money coming into this country. This is American money coming into our English Premier League. Yeah. It isn't at the expense of anybody else. And the VAT that's being paid and the transactions that are being done on British club transfers all benefit this, the food chain. But it is a unique transfer market. And both myself and Alex discussed this, as I said, in the World Cup, thought it might be a unique one. But I don't think anyone would have seen 80% of the spend, or 75% of the spend that happens in August, being replicated in January.
Absolutely. Alex, before I come to you, Chelsea 10th, 10 points off Newcastle, who are in the Cup final, Carabao Cup final now. Manchester United should meet them there, but they are third and fourth. Is there now no excuse, Simon, for Graham Potter and top four this season? Boehly said, "Okay, over to you now."
But was there ever an excuse? But what they've given is Potter a very difficult task, because it's a very difficult football club to manage in certain ways. It is not the impossible job. It is not the most difficult job in football, but it comes with its own challenges. Now, the difficulty is, it's one thing buying all these players, it's another thing integrating them and then managing the expectations of both the fans and the media. Yeah. He does have to get close, and I don't know whether Chelsea will get him a top four, but I don't believe that Boehly will pull the trigger on him, even if he doesn't.
I think the pressure's ramped right up on Potter now, though, Alex.
Not just in the eyes of Todd Boehly, but in the eyes of the Chelsea fans as well. I've mentioned it before. This is a fan base who in the last 2 decades have become accustomed to challenging for trophies, to at least finishing in the top four. And once fan patience wears thin, that can seep into a boardroom, and you have to be a very strong owner not to listen to the fans. Look at Everton. A big reason that they're in this situation that they're in tonight is because too often the owners have paid attention to the fans. The fans didn't want Rafa Benitez. We'll get rid of Rafa Benitez. The fans want Frank Lampard. Yeah. We'll hire Frank Lampard. How is that working out?
But I also think the Everton boardroom is very different to the Chelsea one. I think if you look at Todd Boehly, and we've spent time with him, this man's cut from a different cloth. This club was bought in a different way than Everton were bought. And Mashiri spent £500 million of Arguably Usman's money, someone else's money, we don't know. But the bottom line is Boehly and the private equity guys have come in to make an impression. And I think part of the impression they wanted to make is they want to be the biggest cocks of the walk in terms of they'll spend whatever it takes to get where they need to get to. And I think they quite like the idea, with all due respect to them, because it's an American trait of now having the biggest transfer in English football. I think they quite like the idea of that.
Simon, we're hearing Fernandes should end up being an 8.5-year deal for Chelsea. Simon, let me ask you this straight. Do you think Boehly's arrival on the scene at Chelsea has been more explosive and spectacular than Abramovich's?
No, because you'd never seen the like of Abramovich before. We're now seeing the like of these guys. We've never seen a transaction where a football club's been bought for $2.5 billion. We've seen these mythical valuations. We've all seen the ideals behind the Deloitte's valuation of these football clubs being worth $3 billion, $4 billion, and so on and so forth. And I've sat here repeatedly saying, yeah, get someone to write a cheque out for them. Now, someone has. $2.5 billion in this marketplace might be perceived in certain people's terms as a low value for a football club, because NFL clubs are worth more, and they are pretty much indexed to North America. Football is a global sport, and so we're getting to the point where these businesses are going to be worth much more. But to go to your point, Abramovich was there were three things that started football's engines: Sky Sports, Jack Walker, and Roman Abramovich, and everything followed from there. Now, I think it's a race to the bottom, but that's because I've got a different view on it.
Yeah.
But Boehly and his perspective is more calculated. It's more thought through. You know, even from taking contracts and spreading them over longer periods of time is a calculated decision. They know what they're doing and the reasons why they're doing it. We'll see if they get it right.
And you mentioned 8.5-year contract. It might be more than that. I was told earlier this week 8.5 with a year's option on the end. So you could be looking at a contract of nearly 10 years for this British
That's
record
insane.
signing.
Where will we all be in 8.5 years? Don't tell me I'll still be looking at you in the morning.
God forbid, I hope
or in
not.
the evenings. Mr. Jordan alongside me here with Alex Crook. We're on the 17th floor of the news building, unaccustomed as we are to being in the building at this time of night, but it's a special night. It's transfer deadline day. And of course, Alex, earlier on this evening, well, just a short time ago, we saw Newcastle players on the pitch at St James's Park having got themselves to a Carabao Cup final, one would think, against Manchester United, although Nottingham Forest might have something to say about that. But they solved the challenge of Southampton tonight. I think Southampton, Alex, looking back on that tonight, might think, opportunity missed.
I think over the two games, I was at the first game at St Mary's. Shea Adams missed a huge opportunity at 0-0. Could have been a completely different tie had that found the back of the net. And I think you can see why Southampton have been doing business today. Kaladim Sulemana, £25 million signing from Rennes. That should be confirmed shortly. And they've got the number 9 that Ralph Hasenhüttl craved in the summer. Didn't get him. He lost his job. Nathan Jones looks like he has got that number 9. Paul Awunshu is coming in. He's a Nigerian striker, 6'7". He will give Southampton a focal point. They spent money this window. Will that be enough to keep them in the Premier League?
Well played, Southampton, actually, Simon. Off the pitch, they've done business in an attempt to stay in the top flight because they had to. Now, I would have thought the fans will be happy about that, in spite of the fact they went out at the Carabao Cup at semi-final stage tonight.
Well, needs must. You can't bring a new manager in with a team that's not been firing. You get a bump to a certain degree, and I know that's going to contradict what I'm saying about Sean Dyche, but Nathan Jones is coming in as an inexperienced Premier League manager that went to Stoke City and stunk it out, gone back to Luton, got his poise back again, and has come in. You speak to the Southampton board, they think he's the real deal. They think he's capable of doing lots of different things. They didn't take him because he was a cheap option, so they've got to support him. Now, we look at it and say they've spent 20 million quid.
More than that with these two deals tonight. You're talking.
So we're talking 53 million quid,
yeah,
are we? Okay,
yeah.
So actually we're talking about 63 million quid. So that's more like in keeping with what a club is going to need to spend when they've got a weak base in the first place. Because Southampton are a weak base, they're not a great side. So the key component now is, can Nathan Jones take advantage of the money that he's been given and make sure the signings he's been given turn it into some sort of result for Southampton?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.